cutting-edge ideas to form daily. The technology of construction must therefore evolve. At BlueScope, we are at the forefront of innovation. We develop steel not only to serve as material, but also as a source of inspiration, helping to fuel the creativity of architects looking to build the latest modern architectural marvels. BlueScope's innovative lightweight steel has allowed architectural forms to become increasingly organic. Our flat, curved and tapered steel panels reveal a new world of possibilities for freeform architecture. Once freed from the limitations of traditional materials, buildings can now be crafted precisely according to aspired values and aesthetics. Every building has the potential to become one of the world's iconic designs. Innovations in coated steel have helped improve its utility and beauty in all types of designs, from buildings to home appliances. BlueScope's innovations have transformed steel into a primary material suitable for all types of design and construction projects. Even houses can now be included, as our innovative structural steel can be used anywhere from the roof, walls to the floor, and is durable in all weather conditions. Building houses has never been this easy, convenient or quick, and standards have never been higher. BlueScope will never stop developing and innovating. We want to push boundaries and help transform a great design into an architectural masterpiece recognized around the world. With our networks in Australia, America, and Asia, BlueScope has become a world leader in innovation and the production of coated steel and pre-painted steel. We are advancing the construction and design industries and improving the standard of living for people of all classes. We manufacture the highest quality cold rolled steel, coated steel, and pre-painted steel of beauty and unmatched durability. BlueScope has also set new safety standards in the construction industry. Our system, processes and equipment during installation put the safety of workers first. Going beyond the limits of imagination will no longer be just a dream if we have innovations that can make it a reality. BlueScope will work with architects and designers to support and inspire each other with the goal of advancing the worlds of construction and architecture together.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Ajahn Pacharin.
Good afternoon, Ajahn Hansa.
Welcome you all back to ASA International Forum 2017.
Our last speaker is Mr. Shingo Masuda, the co-founder of Shingo Masuda Katsuhisa Otsubo Architects. The firm is founded in 2007. They quickly gained recognitions and numerous prizes, including the prestigious Emerging Architecture Award.
Their most famous project to date is Boundary Window in Tokyo, involving the conversion of an average two-story house into a photographic studio. The finished building stands out from its suburban context due to the supersized glass curtain wall affixed to the front of the building.
Now please welcome Mr. Shingo Masuda.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much to ASA and all of my great Thai friends who is supporting me all the time, and my wife. Thank you. And well, first of all, I would like to introduce my office. I'm actually working with my partner, a friend from high school. I know him really well. His name is Katsuhisa. And it's not working, maybe? Okay. So this is Katsuhisa, and this was taken for a magazine. It's a portrait, and my friends, my architect friends in Japan, they always have fun of us that he's like a sniper, and I'm like the commander, like telling him to kill somebody. And well, he's a very nice guy. He's quiet, but he's a really nice guy. He's a good designer. And well, we run office from 2007, which is the year we graduated from university. And well, so 2007 was not like opened an office. We were just graduated, and gradually we just became an office. That's our office history. And before reconsidering dwelling this ASA forum theme, I think it is very important to think about richness, what the word we like. This is what we're saying from the beginning. Richness meaning that of course, it's not about the money. Like when you say richness of nature or richness of life, it's not something always positive. It contains negative things, up and down, huge to small. I think that depth of what it has and the width of what it has is important to call something rich. And designing something, we want some richness into it. And it's very difficult to design richness. I think it should be the richness is very complicated. I think, for instance, the richness of nature. Nature is very complicated relation of all bits and pieces, and just comes up to something. And sometimes it becomes super delightful. Sometimes it's scary. And so we tried to see the site and all sorts of elements in the project and try to script those relations to create some kind of richness. And I would like to briefly, maybe quickly go through our early projects, which is not like a dwelling as a house, but it's a very important project since we started off from this project. And this project is, the client is a windmill company, and why windmill company is that we were part-time jobbing in this windmill company when we just graduated, and the CEO of this company just gave us this small project to tell us to find your own way of architecture, and it was to build a rest stop in the windmill farm, like an arbor, like a little roof and 4 pillar for people to rest and see the windmills and the scenery and things like that. Since windmills are very new to Japan, he wanted to show that the scenery with the windmill of Japanese mountains are not bad. Well, actually beautiful. So he wanted to make something like some place to see the scenery. But when you go to the site, the scene was already beautiful, and actually it's a windy place since there's the windmill rounding. So we thought we needed a wall instead of a roof. And people doesn't go to see the windmill in the rainy days, so we made a structure with 4 walls without roof. But we made the structure deformable and swaying in the wind with a steel structure. So it's like the other elements in the scenery, like the greens and the clouds drifting and the windmill revolving, things like that, to complete the scene. And as you can see that, like, grasses bend when it's affected by the wind to a C curve. And also, if you put a steel rod, it also bends as a C curve. But once you bundle it, it becomes an S curve. And I thought that was a minimal effect for the steel to be a little bit artificial and new to the scenery. And to efficiently take the load to the steel, we had to create like a gridded structure, and the bottom is 30 millimeter by 30 millimeter pillar, and as you go to the top, it becomes 6 by 6. So it's like a fishing rod, getting narrower and narrower, going to the top, and bundled. And we calculated, and we decided to make the structure deformable to about 30 centimeter with both sides. And they all have bracings in all grids, and they have loose holes. So usually they're movable, but when the wind gets strong, this locks at some point, and it avoids collapsing. And the structure is sandwiched with rubber sponge-like material to deform with the structure. And it acts as like a sail on a boat to take the load to the steel frame. And also absorbs the small sound and the faint vibration during the deformation. So this is from the inside. And we put a little tall chair inside to see the deformation more, because when you go, as you go up, you see more deformation. So we kind of excluded the chair a little bit long. And you can see that the size is very small, 2 by 2. It's 2 meter by 2 meter. So it was a structure to plan the whole scenery for us. It's with the windmills and the scenery. And this project was done a while ago, and it's unbuilt, but it shows how we think and decide. I think this project quite clear using to express our way of thinking. Now, the site is in Nemuro. This is Hokkaido. This is the mainland of Japan. This is Hokkaido, and the site is somewhere around here. This whole land was owned by the owner of the windmill company, and he was actually born here, and he had plenty of land, and he wanted to give that kind of back to the people who lives around here, like to use it as a park or somewhere where people can come in. And this is me. So it's quite huge, and the site was spreading horizon with this short bamboo all around, where trees can't grow because the wind here is very strong. So no forest can survive here. And in the north wind from the sea and the collision of the warm and cold current generates sea fog during the summer, most of the summer. Because of that, the daylight hours are so few in this region, and the average temperature becomes very low. So the climate becomes like a high mountain, and all the greens are actually are the plants that you can see in the high mountains. And so, like I said, the client request was to make this huge place as a park so people around can come inside. But the budget was very low, so for this site size. So we had to plan something really effective to completely change or change a slight but important thing in this site. And so we proposed just 2 walls that snuggle up in the wind-beaten, shadowless field to one of the cliff edge, and to simply provide a shadow so that people can easily maybe go to the cliff, to the edge, because it's quite scary if you kind of face this enormous, huge scale of landscape. So we wanted to give a point where people can kind of rely onto it. And trees and plants grow, and maybe butterflies stop over. We imagined something like that in between these two walls. Sky, horizon, grass, small forest. We hope those things will be grown in between these spaces and mixed together with the surrounding environment. And the shape of the wall is, the base is parabolic curve, and as you go to the top, you get straighter. So from one side, the wind, they avoid, they can gently take the wind to the side. But on the other hand, the wall takes in the wind load, so it falls down. So these two walls are actually helping each other and supporting each other to exist in this space, in this place. And the wall is made from a 9mm single steel plate, very thin, and it's 6 meter by 6 meter. So, and we plan to use heating and cooling technique to bend the plate very accurate, like you make a big ship. And these small bends are open to work as a stabilizer, because when we calculated the wind, this wind makes a horizontal lift force, just like an airplane wing. Airplane goes up because of the difference of the length of the side of the wing. So the same thing occur here. So the base is very close to the foundation, so it's strong enough. But to the top, it's very, it vibrates like 100 millimeters. So we had to break down all the wings to avoid lift force. And the wind goes faster outside, and inside it gently circles around and disappears in the center. And the lights come in from these ribs to lighten up inside a little bit. So we thought, we tried to connect small things into, and another thing we gave to this site, which is wall, and we kind of tried to script the situation to make a situation that couldn't happen here. And we think that taking balance and design relations to eventually humans and other factors come together will actually lead to a situation that we call richness. And then now I think trees will probably possible to grow here, which had never happened. And not only the short bamboo, the other one that was hiding in the shadow will start to grow in these between spaces. And the butterflies maybe inhabit here, and we think that that situation pulls people to the place. And I think that kind of indirect designing is what we call kind of natural, in a way, as a place. And this 2015, Arcasia was held at Ayutthaya in 2015, and we did a design research and we presented unfolding elements. And it was to, the theme was Future of the Past, and it was to present your own country's alternative from going back to the history. And we were looking in the Japanese architectural textbooks and history books, but we were not very interested in the buildings itself. We got interested in one sentence that said, before the foreigners and the Buddhism came into the island in Japan, there was no shrine in the shrine. And that means there was no building, there was no shrine as a building in the shrine. And that one sentence struck us, and we kind of dug that a little bit and went to research to see the actual what was before the shrine building, and we found out that there was a notion called animism, is to worship the nature. The gods are not one, their gods are everywhere, in rocks, trees, river, etc. And we were very interested in Iwakura belief, which is mainly rocks. And there are all sorts of rocks, many in Japan, and they're made of rock and one single rope, and usually there's like a small shrine, but it's like this size, so it's just for praying, and it's like just a sign that there's a god here together with this rope. And we found out that in here it looks very like a similar size scale rocks, but we found out that there are many scales of rocks and many functions of Iwakura to the city and to the place. And I want to introduce a few of it, and which is pretty different in scale. And this is called Onigura. It's in Yoshino. It's a very traditional place, a little bit south from Kyoto. And during going to Yoshino, there is a cliff, a bold cliff suddenly appear. And Onigura Shrine is this. This is the Onigura Shrine. And It's just like a landmark, and it contains metal inside. So this rust coming out of the rocks kind of gives contrast with the surrounding greens, and it makes beautiful scenery. And another one is called Kamikura Shrine. And it's a shrine that can be seen from the city. Well, you can't see in this slide, but there's the city all around here. And it's actually, Onigura is around here. So if you go all the way down to the sea, you have this Kamikura Shrine and the city. So this is Kamikura Shrine. And this is like a mark again. And you can't go inside. And you can rest on top of it after you're climbing up this high cliff. And it's very interesting that this city is a very historical steel manufacturing place, and this rock also contains steel. So, it's very important for living. So that's why it's also becoming a god. Same as Onigura. This shrine is Konochi Shrine. And you can see there are many scenes and many rocks. And this is very interesting because the existing rocks were used for the master plan of the shrine. So this is the gate, and you have like an additional place which rocks are making a small hole inside, and this is like the main gate, and then this shrine is worshiping this cliff, which you can't see all of. So the existing rocks are used as plan of the whole shrine. This is again, it's just a gate to show that we're worshiping this and you can't go inside. So it was the sequence of rocks becoming to a shrine. And this Akakura shrine is in the cedar forest. It's relatively small, but the human size is this, praying in this kind of overhang. And this Akakura shrine was very interesting to us because this rock was making complete different situation from the surrounding. Because of this rock, there's sunlight coming into this cedar forest where these places are shadowed with the forest. So different trees grow on top of this rock, and having this tree, you have leaves falling down in the fall, and soils made on the top, and water. That soil contains water, and that kind of gives this mold texture to the back of the rock, and it's completely changing the surrounding environment with just one object. And that special place kind of brings people to gather and dance and pray, since it's a special place. So we were fascinated by a strong object creating place than space, like shrine, like the structure shrine makes. So that was our interest, I think, in the previous project as well, like a strong structure or object making, to make the whole scenery completely different or into a different direction is what we're interested in. And from here is a little bit about dwelling, still very small project. And this project is just a single wall in front of the house, and it's not the main house. And after that tower project, we have no projects, right? So architects usually go to, I don't know, your parents, and then say, let's build a house. But my parents said, okay, we're enough with the house. And I was still living in the house, so I really understood that. But the wall made next to the street, which is facing north, was deteriorating with the moist, and the time was passed for about maybe, I think it was there for maybe 30 or 40 years. And it was this high. So they wanted to be something more light because of the earthquake. They're worried about the earthquake. And also the moist that's being kept inside this gap with this concrete wall and becoming dead space, very little dirty place. And also the property is very precious in Japan, in Tokyo. So my mother really loves gardening, so she wants to use as a little garden, even in this 1.3 meter gap. So we will do the wall. Okay, then we started off by kind of doubting that this can be architecture, or is it something what we're interested, or but we had nothing to do, so we just did this. And due to the moisture and the security problem, like if you put a very opaque wall, if you go inside, no one can see from outside. So it's sometimes not secure. So they wanted something that can be seen, but that's also not been seen. So we had to make a very transparent but opaque at the same time boundary. And we chose expanded metal for the main material. And I like this material because it's made from a small steel metal sheet and cut, and by stretching it, it becomes like this size. So the existence of the material is very, very weak, and in a positive way, I think. And so we chose this material. And since it's on the north side, and we wanted the lights coming, small lights also coming in, and reflection coming into the site to make the greenery better, we wanted to make the wall without using frames or pillars. So we bended the expanded metal big along the site. But it's still weak. So we bended at the corner to make a pillar-like structure, and intermediate pillar-like structure to make the wall stronger. So this is what we made. And we put a stainless mesh curtain for the gates. And there's another gate here, actually, a bigger one. And we opened some windows so the wind can go through. Also, this material can flow the wind, but can flow the air. But we wanted the wind to come in also, so we opened some openings. So this boundary can be reread according to the situation of the surroundings and what comes up together with the sceneries, like continuous with the street or continuous of the living room, and it can be from the other side. The street can be wider. So it's something that's very flexible in a way, and it works as a lace curtain like function. So in the daytime, even if you open up the window full, no one can see inside clearly. So this project actually was very thoughtful for us, because architects intend to change cities or urban situation by designing houses, but that kind of makes the privacy sometimes not enough, because they want connections and they want relations. So we use glasses and make it transparent, but privacy and heat problem also is not good. So the answer to the city actually makes other problems. So we don't want to do that. We want to make all balanced. And we thought that it's very effective to just design a wall instead of a house, instead of a whole house, because it's actually the boundary of the private and public, and it's actually faster to change the whole city with just designing the wall and actually make the condition better for the house too. This project is a conversion of an apartment to a single house or a weekend house, and in the weekdays they're lended to like magazines to shoot for the magazines. So it's like a background, like a photo studio, and they earn money from that, and then they use to upgrade furnitures and things like that. So because weekend houses are not used in the weekdays. So it was like some kind of like a business, a new way of creating something very individual, so that it and also can be used as a business. And the client did it first with his own house. And the building is a 2-story RC structure, and this project was started. We were asked to do the interior design, and but in the first meeting, he came with tons of Google images and books and things. So, and we thought that it was pretty clear that what he wanted. It wasn't something that's like bad taste or something, and we can't say that that's bad taste, or it's his. So, but if we do it, or maybe we could fight with the client, but we didn't choose that because we're not interested to create something we want. We're more lazy about those things. So we were hearing and showed many things, but there were two critical things that client probably can't solve. Was the relation. He had a parking lot on the south side of the plot, but it's always shadowed with the adjacent housings, and he wanted that place full of green, and also he wanted this window to be renewed, to have new connection between the building side and the garden side. And also this rooftop used as something. And we thought that we can propose that instead of the interior design. So we demolished the existing balconies and eaves, and we got rid of it, the windows, sashes, and shutters, and we tried to design the boundary, and just we gave a window to in between the garden side and the building side. So it looks like a 3-story, but it's actually the structure is till here. So the window is actually bigger than the building. And we have basically 3 functions to this window. First one is the handrail for the second floor. He wanted a new connection, an open connection to the greened garden, but it always ends up with designing handrail. So we integrated as an important element from the beginning to the window. So we use this handrail to split the doors, and upper and the down. So this handrail is working as a railing of the door as well. And the second is the reflection that this huge glass makes to lighten up the shadowed garden. And it's very interesting that when glasses get thinner and thinner, the reflection percentage gets higher and higher. So it was good to know that, because we had to make the door light, and so the people can easily move. It's all movable. So we had to make this with thin glass and thin steel, and it ended up about maybe 150 kilograms per door, and it's like moving 1 liter bottle on a table to the side. So it's very light. And the third is the heating chimney effect that we made with this really thin, like, atrium. So the heat goes up to the rooftop before it reaches the building structure. And so we needed the door to be light, and so we calculated this balance, and we also calculated the deformation of this door during typhoon season. So we ended up, this door can be deformed for 10 centimeters towards this side. So you can bend like this for 10 centimeter without all the glasses or anything, or the doors getting off the rail in the very windy situation. So it's like a very, it's not very hard, maybe window. It's kind of like it's like a membrane kind of structure window. And this is the reflection we have. So this garden is quite artificial because the shadow, we have it to the opposite way. Because this side is the south, the sun is here, so it's very artificial garden. And you can see that every element is not fitting into the right place as it was. Like it's all shifting. Even the curtains are also shifting to the outside. So it's very wide opened boundary. And even when it's closed, it's shifted from the building for about 250 millimeters. So it's very wide and very open situation. And this is the second floor. This is the rail and the handrail that we were talking about. When you open it, it becomes like a terrace, and the only thing that's left is the handrail we just need, just the armrest. And this is the rooftop. And we also was kind of thinking about scale of the living and the interior scale and the outside exterior scale. It's making, this window is actually making two scales, I think. One is cropped scale from the interior with small grids. That's very natural in the interior. But outside, usually the housings have the facade with the windows and things coming from exposed of the interior planning. But for this one, it's more of a scale. It has a scale of a public scale. So the garden is very like extraordinary, like right scale with the greens and trees. And we're running out of time, so I'm going quick. And this is called living pool. It's another renovation. Is this house to be renovated? The owner loved the surrounding, and he chose to move to this house. It's a very old house. And in the first meeting, he brought this model to me, and he said he wants to live like this. And okay, we said okay. And it was reasonable. We tried many plans, but he was trying to avoid taking off pillars and things. So it was very polite to the structure, and the variations we made was actually not polite. So we thought we give this plan to the renewed house, and but instead of that, we looked into the foundation, which was very dirty, and if the upper house is clean, but if you have like a dirty foundation, I thought it was really pity. So we thought we should refresh this and also anti-earthquake. We had to strengthen the foundation, so we focused on the foundation instead of the upper floor, upper house, and we added this concrete slab and initial rise to the initial height. And he wanted, so it's like the boundary window, I think. The owner actually knows what he wants, and we can be someone who can advise them, but it's sometimes a bit hard to be to propose them an idea or something, because I think that's not what they are looking for. Actually, they're looking for something else. And for this one, they were looking for an idea to live with the surroundings and have a lighter environment to live instead of the previous dark house. So we focused there. So we just added this concrete slab bowl and insulated, and we put a heating pipes inside. So in the winter time, it becomes a warm bowl, and in the summer, it keeps the cool air inside the bowl. And since the existed previous floor was here and changed lower down to almost the ground level, the reaching of the sunlight extended deeper, and also the scenery was like looking horizontal before, but now it's looking up to the mountains, so you feel more sky from the inside the house. So it's more close to having a situation like outside. And we separated the foundation and the housing with this long ringed baseboard all around in one ring to make the housing territory, which is like put on top of the foundation. And also reflection from the other side comes from down of the corridor to lighten up the whole space. And this is the gate, existing entrance, but we left that as an entrance to kind of feel you're going inside the house. But neighbors come to the window and gives vegetables directly to the kitchen. So it's very, we designed very explicit boundary, but it was actually connecting with the surroundings. So he lives in the foundation, and and one other thing that he was proposing at the first to lighten up the house and to see the scenery, he wanted to open ceiling windows and more windows to the side walls, but that's what he proposed, but it will make maybe water drops from the ceiling window, and also privacy, and this is in the countryside, so it snows in the winter, so the heating problem will probably occur. So that's the point where we kind of proposed, and we gave idea to it to just design this foundation, not changing the opening of the house. So we changed the order of the design, site to house, and then setting up foundation to site. Then they have the place to stay or to live, which is foundation, and house to that functions like toilets and bathroom. So we renovated the order of how the place is made. And these kind of little small elements are usually overlooked in making totality in architecture. And but I think making these small elements and actually designing very briefly to these in-between relations, I think it can actually cross border with even making a very explicit boundary, not making transparent housings, making that produces another problem. So we're very into those kind of overlooked elements. And this one is called initiative roof. I don't know why we called. I think I wanted to kind of propose something that was like there before the house. So this is also on a renovation project, and the main house was built 45 years ago, and they wanted another room for storage, so they added another small room later on, maybe 10 years later, and it was to renovate this house. And it's actually relatively big as a Japanese Tokyo house. And we went to the site and we saw the house, and it was very enough. It's 45 years ago. It was the land is big, so the housing was also big. So it was actually big enough, and numbers were enough. So we even actually had an extra room outside. So, but the client wanted something else. The client wanted to add some kind of green room or like a glass room to the garden, and to have this separated land to gather into one again. So I think that's what they imagined with this greenhouse. But having greenhouse at the south side will make the moist, and when they're gone for work, the heating of that glass makes into the house will kind of destroy the house. I think the reason of this old house was maintained very nice was because of the land and actually the size of the land, which makes the air circulation well. So everything was very usable, but adding that glass house, I think, will destroy those kind of balanced situation. So we propose to make an outside corridor to connect the separated room. and also the second floor bedroom and balcony to be connected to the garden as well. So this time it was a challenge for us. For boundary window and living pool, it was an element that functions actually to the building, an important role for the building. But this time, it was really enough. The house was big enough, and it had big enough window. The land was big, so we had to propose something without function. And I thought that was a very challenging thing and what we have to do, because that's what I think architecture can do. And people say, when they look at this, when they look at this, people say, is this really needed? But once you go to the site, they say, oh, it's reasonable. So I think, but feeling that is like kind of, they feel this comfort unexpectedly. And that means I think it's new for them. So I think that's a possibility that architecture can do. So we stick to make structure that has no function. So it completes its structure by itself. And I'll explain that later. So it's like an extending a small element from the inside to outside. It's just a staircase you can see, and a pillar that kind of ends at the window. And this is from the additional small room. It's a study room. And this is from the second floor terrace. And you kind of feel the surrounding, like houses and like scenery of the tall apartment as like your garden at the same time, together with these trees in your garden. So it's like a very simple frame that reflects also the surroundings. It's painted 100% reflective paint. And the length is 17 meters, and the height is about 5.5 meters. And it has 4 pillars with 1 bracing that works as a staircase for people. And to make the water drop down to the ground, we made this roof pulling with this drainage chain. We pull it, so this is a weight. It's like 100 kilograms, and we pull the chain to make the water slope so that the water can drop to the chain. And we did that to the other side as well, to the different corner. So this is the scale, and the staircase brace also works as collapsing to this way, because it's a very umbrella shaped structure that doesn't define a place like surrounding with 4 pillars. It's just 1 pillar in the center that creates this side and like this side. And also this is just bent with its own load. This is 4.5 millimeter steel plate, and it's like a very light, slightly bolted shape. also pulled at the end with this chain. So it's a very flexible, it's a very complicated shape, this roof. And it kind of grabs all the surroundings so it makes this garden and surroundings like a element as an interior, like for the house, for the living. So you can see it's slightly sloped in this way, and also it's sloped this way. And the previous projects, we were defining the scale with a more aggressive way. But this time, we tried to scale this thing not to avoid the existings. So these existing hangovers have function that leads the sunlight shut in the summer, but gives sunlight deep into the house in the wintertime. And so we didn't want to avoid that. We could maybe extend this hangover, but that will make the wintertime very shadowy. So that's why we separated the structure outside and made it higher, so that it actually creates extra shadow at the summertime, so that the inside house and the garden has connected shadow. And for the winter, this hangover works 100%. And for this side, we thought about having the bedroom light in the wintertime. So if you go a little bit more up, I think this roof will kind of distract the sunlight in the wintertime to the bedroom. So I think this was like the maximum scale we can put into this site. And that was like about 2.1 meters from the roof of the first floor. This is away from the site. So it's one of the elements in the scenery, together with surroundings. So we kind of made a scale, like a middle scale, into the house, because I think this tree 45 years ago, it was half size, and it was like this height. So I think the window of the house and the trees were the same size, and it's like widespread garden horizontally. But this 45 years, they grown up and kind of taking over the site. So we kind of gave balance to the site again, using scale as well. And this is called North Side Villa. We're calling it North Side Villa. It's one house, and this is all new, but we're separating the utility spaces and the rooms with a different structure. This is the initiative roof plan, but it's very easy to explain, so I will use this. Normally, Japanese housings, they are the utility spaces and staircases, corridors, they are efficiently laid out on the north side. And on the south side, they want the maximum sunlight. So they put the living rooms on the south side. And in order to make this bigger, you have to be efficient, like a puzzle, for the north side. And this client was also, they don't even know what architects do. And I don't know what they came to our office, but the site is very close. I think that's the only reason. And the request was to make the living room big. and also it's a housewife, so she wants a very efficient water spaces so that she can work very efficiently during daytime. And also it's very dense. The housings are very densely built around. So she wanted privacy. She even don't want to make any window transparent. So that's what normal people say. So I wanted to, and I can understand that really. So I wanted to propose something that can create that request more architecturally. So we made this place. We proposed to use this utility spaces to be the depth of the living rooms and bedrooms, so that because they don't want to make many openings to this side. They just wanted slight light from the south side, just lights. So we tried to make this place, which is like black box usually in the house, but it's actually 1/3 of the space in the house. So we thought we should open that in some way and use that as a scene for the living room to make a deeper and maximize the feeling of the living room to the site size. And that's why we separated to make, so this is the utility space, and this is the room. And also the budget is like the normal house, so we had to deal with the budgets also. So we decided to make the rooms relatively cheap with using industrial material, very like housing maker house, and we focused and put money into the utility spaces so that this room can have good scene. So this is still an ongoing project, so we're not really sure of what we're doing yet, but the concept is like that. We're very interested into those really ordinary living, and we want to propose architectural ideas to ordinary living. So this is the second floor. And this goes up to the rooftop of the rooms, and it's a terrace. But you have this huge volume still, but it's cropped with the house in front. So you just have a small hut, like stick at the back. So it's very natural with the scenery from the street side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shingo Masuda, for such a very inspiring presentation. Now it's Q&A sessions. So the staff will hand out a small piece of paper. You can write it down, or you can use microphone in the middle of the aisle, or you can ask the staff some microphone.
Okay, please welcome Associate Professor Dr. Tonkao Panin, the moderator of these sessions, to be on stage.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Thank you for the lecture. I'm glad you showed all those projects. They're all very sensitive and delicate. But I have a confession to make. your first half of the lecture made me nervous because I thought that this was going to be an anti-architectural lecture and it's going to be difficult to discuss. Then you showed the houses, so that sort of made me relieved a little bit. So before asking about any of the projects, I'd like to start with a very general question first, because looking at all your projects, it made me curious whether, do you think from the beginning, from the first built project till today, you started your practice in 2007, right? It's been 10 years. Do you think your ideas about architecture or your working direction have changed at all during these past 10 years?
It's becoming just deeper into ourselves, I think, and more honest to myself as a daily living man.
Mm-hmm. So it's the same. So it's sort of the same themes, or it's sort of
yes,
interpreting the same
yes,
questions.
Yes, I think it's but when the project gets bigger and bigger, I think it's kind of, it gets harder to maintain myself maybe sometimes, because it's like architecture, the figure of kind of architecture is like there, and if we go close to it, sometimes they kind of invade us, but that's what's getting hard for us, like these days. But still, we just take time and just find the way to make architecture continuous from the daily living, or what I really feel as an average man.
So you see it as a more of a continuous practice, sort of re-asking the question over and over with a different scale of the project, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All of your projects are different in terms of how we are related to living spaces and the environment, but I get the sense that they also have something in common. Do you think you have a common working philosophy or a theory or ideas that run through all the projects? Do you think there's anything that binds sort of all the projects together in some way?
Well, actually, there are many things that we kind of discuss all the time, but I think the most maybe important thing we are very careful about is that, like I showed in the slides, would try to make the situation or the place itself instead of making space. Because
so that's what you call indirect design in a way, right?
Yes. I think giving space is very easy sometimes, to make a building or to make some enclosure. So, but to make a situation, I think, is just about how things are related, and I think it's a very structural thing. So yeah, I think that's and that actually affects the space and qualifies the space. So that's what we're careful about, I think.
But I think that not talking about the space itself sometimes becomes very difficult for us as an architect, because space is the first thing that we can grasp, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I have a question about your last project. You call it a north side house or utility
North
house
side
project.
villa,
Yeah.
yes.
Because in designing a house, architects are usually focusing first on the living spaces and then perhaps the style of the house. But you seem to be doing something completely different. Are you trying to propose a sort of a different definition of dwelling in that house, or are you trying to make a different statement with that house?
Well, I think it's very natural to think utility spaces, looking at the history of housings. Because like very traditional farmhouses or like traditional Japanese houses. The change of the housing plan is actually the change of the utility spaces, the specification of the utility spaces. Because first, kitchen was dangerous to be inside the house because it's fire, you're using fire. So that was outside. And also, it didn't have enough cleanness for the toilet, so that's also outside. And but eventually, they came inside. And that kind of changed the whole structure of the housing and also the living. Also the electric, furniture is also changed. But the biggest issue that changed housing is, I think, is looking at the history, is utility spaces. And I think that's what the dwelling architecture kind of, the roots of the architecture is there. But architects are to build like palace or shrine or something like that. So it needs strong main rooms or I think, but housing is, I think, it's different. Looking at history.
Yeah, but by focusing on utility spaces, you are actually addressing ways in which this living space or a house can be operated, which is of course reflected in the plan. But my question is, do you think that this kind of idea can also be reflected in the look of the house also?
I think for the look of the house, we maybe didn't make a complete change in the scene, but I think we made some kind of depth to the city with the leftover spaces. We tried to make that big volume cropped with the room, with the box, and those leftover part will be glass and having light wall at the north side, which will lighten up the whole house, and that cropped little room is like a small depth to the city, I think, and I think that was enough.
Yeah, I understand, but not talking about the look of the house is also difficult, right? Because you remember Le Corbusier once said that the plan is a generator, but even for Le Corbusier, he had to think at some point about how his houses would look. So my question for you is that, at which point do you begin to think about how the house would actually appear, or do you discuss about that at all in your office?
We discussed that, and we're ending up like this, I think.
Yeah.
It's the way I think we.
So you mean that this is your decision? It's not accidental.
Yeah.
It's your. Now maybe there are questions from the floor. มีใครอยากถามคำถามได้ไหมคะ ใครถามไหมเงียบอ่านถาม
Hi, Shingo. Well, we talked a lot about architecture throughout the years. And you've always used the term scripting the richness. And I appreciate, a lot of your projects is usually about this wild, untamed nature or urbanism. And then you do this one little thing that makes it all rich. My question to you is, when you get larger projects, or you have to design a total environment, where you almost have to create all the richness yourself, how will you approach that?
I don't feel to make every richness, I think. I just want to make a critical point, I think, to the situation. I think that's what the architecture can do and the nature can't do, maybe. So I really like the artificial way of like critically changing the space. But the detail, I'm not interested. How they live or something I'm not into it.
What about a language? Do you think there are certain languages that are specific to your work, or are all the projects different from one to another? Do you think you have certain languages that are specific to your work?
I don't know. Does it look like?
It doesn't look like that. It looks
Okay.
like all the projects deal with different kind of situations. So it differs from one project to another, which is sometimes it's difficult for us architects because we feel the need to sort of establish our own identity.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah. So yeah, maybe in that way we're not caring about too much about
The styles.
the styles. Yes. Well, actually, we're trying to get out of the styles, more critically proposing an idea, I think is more important.
So, but you're still teaching at Musashino, right?
Yes, I'm teaching, yes.
How do you see the teaching is related to your practice? Why is it important for you to be teaching at the same time as doing your own practice?
Oh, well, of course, it's very important to say something, to express myself, to others. I think that's one important thing. And it's very different in generations, because young students give me different opinions, and also my mother. I talk all these ideas and sketches to my mother, my wife, my friends outside architecture, and I think students are one of them.
Are there any questions from the floor? มีใครอยากถามอะไรไหมคะ
It's kind of very impressed me in the way of you change the point of view of architect that I quite enjoy to see aerodynamic drawing or even a lot of project that is like architect never thought before. For example, the pool house that you try to open the foundation to look at, right? And then you see that it's such a pity because it's dirty and abandoned. But my question is, I just wonder, do you think it can be applied, this kind of like using foundation as integration of new system technology, as you mentioned, is winter or the summer season is very comfort area, right? Mm-hmm. Is it possible, and why you don't use it as your prototype for other houses?
Because my work is to, I think, because I don't think that's the only way to make the space, and people can maybe use it, but I'm into more finding other solutions as well, and I'm not interested in producing numbers.
Way of you mentioned that you like to create kind of critical point of view rather than recreate the whole thing. So I see it as potential of a critic in the way of new way of modern houses design. Maybe it's very good in a way, kind of big potential. And also just wonder one more of your question of your presentation house is called initiative roof. This one you mentioned about it's no function at all in the way, and the thing is how can you approach to the client to success that project? How to convince?
I think the one word I got from the client when it was built, was the most happy word, and they said that the garden got bigger. That's what they felt, but they were like, in their garden there's a huge structure built, but they actually feel the garden bigger, and that was very encouraging me, that the architectural design is something that's very separate from function. And like housings and functions, they all go from the blue sky to and the daily living is like more about inside the hand. And that house was also like that, but it was everything enough settled. But I wanted both to be there together with the sky and also something very close to the body. And I think that's what's that was important to propose, something that goes back to the sky.
And perhaps, are there any more questions? Perhaps a concluding question. Do you remember a few years ago you came to our school and we were talking about the position of your office? How do you think your office is different from any other Japanese architectural practice? And you said that it was very difficult to find that position. So I wonder whether, today, do you still think it's difficult, or have you found, that position yet?
No, now I feel that just focusing on work and producing ideas and proposing ideas and sharing that to the world is the only way to make the position. So
that's great. So I think we can conclude this. And we truly appreciate your project because, first of all, because of the smallness of it, and the second of all, because of the sensitivity, and most of all, because of the question that they're asking. Despite of the smallness, they are all very provocative in the statement that they make. So I think that's important. That's what we need today. So thank you for coming to Bangkok again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shingo and Associate Professor Dr. Ton Kao. And now I would like to ask Ajahn Ton Kao to give out the token of appreciations to our speaker today.
This year, the forum, under the theme Ban Ban or Reconsidering Dwelling. Within this today, we have very interesting 6 speakers with us, somehow very provocative and change the lens of the view to seeing the word Ban, right? And then we hope you have a different lens or different point of view to reflect or reconsider the context of home or being at home.
Today, our ASA International Forum has come to an end. Now we would like to ask Mr. Nantapon Jangan, the chairman of Architect Expo 2017, to come up on stage and give us a closing remark.
Good evening. The ASA Forum has been organized over 20 years ago. For over 20 years, we have been able to invite leading minds in architectural world to present their work and ideas to a broader audience, asking them to share not only their knowledge but also to inspire. This year was no exception. Our distinguished field of guests include, in order of presentation, David Schaefer Studio Make from Thailand, Keisuke Maeda from Japan, Ajarendan from Sri Lanka, Fabrizio Barossi from Spain, Max Chawitala from Germany, and Shingo Masuda from Japan. Thank you all for coming to Bangkok and becoming part of our proud ASA Forum tradition. Thank you very much. The subject of this year's forum, Ban Ban, Reconsidering Dwelling, is something we can all relate to. Our home are a place we always spend most time after all. This is why I believe it is the aspect of architecture we should be particularly concerned about. And I am sure that our guest presentation gave us enough to reconsider dwelling. Now I would like to take this opportunity to thank to all ASA Forum working team members. First, our chairman of ASA Forum, Winyu Raksa. Jacob Kadorinsky, กิจโชติ นันทศิริวิกรม สาวิตรี ไพศาลวัฒนา Thank you for the nice management of ASA Forum. And I would like to say thank you to our lovely modulator, รัชพร ชูช่วย ฉัตรพงษ์ ชื่นฤดีมน คัทริยา จิรประเสริฐกุล ต้นข้าวปานิน หม่อมหลวงปิยรดา ทวีปัตรรังสี And very special thanks to our senior advisor, บุญเสริม เปรมธาดา and ฉัตรพงษ์ ชื่นฤดีมน And for very nice sequence running today and yesterday, I would like to thank you to our MC, Master of Ceremony, พัชรินทร์ กูเนิร์ด หันษา ศรีเลิศ ชัยพานิช And I really thank you to KDC Cruise and Pre-Library for a very nice graphic นะครับ I am also very grateful to BlueScope, our main sponsor who made ASA Forum 2017 a reality. Last but not least, I am also happy to see such a large audience and many young faces in it. I hope you have all learned something from our event, which is why I am already looking forward to ASA Forum 2018. Thank you very much and see you again next year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nantopon. And can I please invite all of our speaker, moderators, and ASA committee, also the KDC group, to have a photo on the stage, please.
Together now, yes, thank you. And thank you very much for staying with us, and I'll see you again next year. Goodbye.
Have a good trip.ขอเชิญอาสาคอมมิตี้ขึ้นด้านบนด้วยนะคะ